This is probably the most hated unit in the entirety of StarCraft 2. The worst design at its finest, the MotherShip Core was the only unit that made it to the game, lasted for many years and then was deleted for good. Here's the story of it and why everybody was angry about it. Let's get back to the past for a quick tour. The MotherShip Core was added with How to Do Swarm expansion, and back in the old days, it's easy to see the need for such a unit. Protoss race relies on expensive and high-value forces. Losing your army or getting a bad fight could be just devastating. This can severely limit your capabilities with any type of aggression or timing pushes. Moving out is just dangerous, and in Wings of Liberty, you would prefer to sit on your base until you have a nice death ball. We all joke about how the Protoss race is easy and it tends to A-move with a big army, but this was indeed a big problem, as Protoss race didn't have any defender advantages in Wings of Liberty, like creep or powerful static units as siege tanks. This is why it used to be quite passive and had only two ways to go. You either wait for the gigantic chunky army in the first place, in the late game, or just go for an all-in. Static defense such as photon cannons couldn't really protect you in the late game against fully upgraded units, and you had no way to come back home quickly. There was no recoil except for a large mothership. And as for defensive warpins, you needed to leave out at least 20 supply of your army, making you somewhat weaker in a direct engagement. And on top of that, the PvP matchup was a total mess, and it was the craziest, most random thing in the eternity of StarCraft 2. From silly warp gate rushes to different cheeses, all-ins, proxies and whatnot. You had no reliable scouting tools, and it was incredibly risky to even expand on your natural. The MotherShip Core solved all those issues. It seemed like a perfect solution. It had three abilities: Time Warp to slow down enemy units, Recoil to quickly escape in case of danger, and Nexus Overcharge to protect your base from invaders.
And now in the game, oh, KGB Faye doing that MotherShip Core micro, all threatening and whatnot. I really feel, the MotherShip Core to me is an expensive B-52 bomber that isn't equipped with any high-tech bombs. It is equipped with the maneuverability and evasive technology to be able to get deep, far beyond enemy lines. But what it unloads isn't an explosive to destroy everything underneath it. It's a guy in a parachute who lands and has a satin glove and just slaps people with it. Psh, psh, that's a MotherShip Core, man. I can float everywhere. I can see everything now. Psh, psh. Stupid MotherShip Core. Oh my god.
Indeed, it was a very positive change as it allowed a lot more variety in playstyles for Protoss race. You could now walk with your stalkers across the map and disengage when you wanted, making your opponent really angry about it.
What? What the fuck was that? You can do that? The fuck?
You could also defend drops with ease and just have a somewhat steady and reliable early to mid game with a solid defense against most things in StarCraft 2. It was also a nice scouting unit for the first couple of minutes, and yet it created a new set of problems. The MotherShip Core became a Swiss army knife, and you could not afford to lose it. It was such an irreplaceable piece of your army composition that you just couldn't last in a game without it. The whole race became reliant on a single unit, and it was really stressful and annoying. So the Protoss race was scared of losing it, but other races hated how easy it became to defend yourself with just a single flying ball. You have a problem with a drop? Well, it's okay, just click one button and your Nexus will beat the shit out of anybody in its range. Simple as that. And also, most importantly, it didn't really fix the late game issue. While it was easy to protect 2 or even 3 bases, it was a whole different story for 4, 5 or 6 bases, and cannons were still trash. So in Legacy of the Void, Blizzard came up with an idea of moving the overcharge from Nexus to pylons. You could now go for a rush strategy and overcharge them offensively, but on the bright side, it was now easier to destroy. However, despite the new changes, people were still complaining really hard about it. MotherShip Core was just a binary unit, and the fate of your game depended too heavily on this one little hero. This is a bad concept both for the attacker and the defender. You could lose it in a blink of an eye if it gets sniped, but it also was a no-brainer and it's just a very easy defensive tool for all purposes. So much was at stake with MotherShip Core, and it didn't feel right for StarCraft 2.
Cast it into the fire!
Blizzard had to bite the bullet and remove it, and eventually it was replaced by shield batteries. And to be honest, this was another Pandora's box in itself, as it opened a new spectrum of extremely annoying strategies and game moments, but it was still a better solution. Batteries could be spread across the map, they felt nice in the late game, and they also required much more skill for positioning and cost efficiency calculation, and even some microcontrol with targeting and battery overcharge. Yes, I know it sounds easy, but it's still more difficult than building a single MotherShip Core, right? So you could play without them, or you could camp behind dozens of them. You could also use them offensively, and you could also lose a game if you build too many of them. It provides variety, although this structure has a list of its own issues, but that's already a different story. This way, the MotherShip Core was gone, and to be fair, most people, including Protoss players themselves, were quite happy with the new replacement. But what about recall and the ability to disengage? Well, it was just moved to Nexus, simple as that, making Protoss race more versatile and powerful, as well as very active on the map. The game now looked much better and dynamic than it used to be. We got ourselves a happy ending, at least for the majority of players and viewers. For more interesting units and concepts that we removed, check out these videos. And that's the end of our story. Have a nice day, and see you next time.